Thank you for joining us for another Collegial Conversation with Diana Clark. Today's topic is adventure, a recovery pathway with Timothy Walsh. Tim Walsh is the founder of Adventure Recovery and is an outdoor educator and leader with 30 years of experience cultivating his expertise in adventure-based counseling, recovery, and program development. Thank you for joining us today, Tim. I'll pass it on over to Diana now.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it. And welcome, Tim Walsh. It has been a couple of years since you and I have been face to face because of this pandemic we've all been facing. But on an ordinary year, we used to run into each other at least once or twice. So you have been a longtime colleague of mine, and my first real introduction to outdoor adventure-based therapeutic services. So let's start with the basic premise. What is considered outdoor adventure-based premises? Services.
Depends who you ask, right? Well, first of all, Diana, it's great to see you, and thank you so much for asking me to join you. I do miss you. It's great to see your face, and looking forward to our next in person.
Totally.
I think it's almost as important to me that people get their own opportunity to define adventure as it is as they get to define their own recovery, because it's different for everybody. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their heads around what is this thing, called adventure therapy, outdoor therapy, wilderness therapy. So I think the easiest way for me to describe it is any experience that pushes you beyond your comfort zone can be considered an adventure. One that does so intentionally, one that does so therapeutically, one that does so with lasting meaning, I would hope fits in the category of what we try to do. And for us, the best way to do that is outside. The best way to do that is immersed in a natural environment because of many reasons. But the main reason being is it's kind of where we belong. I always argue, I say, best argument for why we are potentially an alien species is the fact of the way we behave on a daily basis, going from box to box to box to box to box, right? Literally, where our lives are so inward and not enough a part of the outward experience. And yet every time I see a human being go outside and learn that they're safe, first and foremost, experience nature as it is, untouched by our hands and our manipulations, there's a awareness that begins to take over. There's a shifting consciousness that people begin to realize, wow, there's something going on here. And they relate to it. And for some people, it takes some time because, again, we've been conditioned to, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, right? We've been conditioned to believe that everything out there is out to get us and kill us, or at least make us really, really uncomfortable, which, by the way, isn't necessarily untrue. But there's a place for us out there. And the more we can embrace it and experience it, and then skillfully navigate it, this wide world of wonder tends to overtake us with a sense of awe and a sense of belonging and a sense of maybe I'm not the center of the universe. Maybe everything isn't out to get me. Maybe this is okay. I'm okay as I am in this moment. So not sure if that defines anything.
Yes, I like the answer to anything can be an adventure, because anything that stretches us beyond our comfort zone, for many of us, that could be, driving. For somebody else, it could be walking in the woods. For somebody else, it could be baking a cake. That would be considered an adventurous experience. What I'm curious about, I totally understand the needing to be out in nature and needing to be part of the quote unquote wild, so to speak. We are mammals, we are animals, and I suspect that we find our sense of that and potentially that sense of awe, which makes us bigger than just mammals. But what do you note that people seem to come in contact with more spirituality in the wild, in the woods, or what are the things that people tend to access?
Absolutely. I've often told people my own spiritual pathway is nature, right? It is um, learning to be more quiet, more still, more present in a natural setting is much easier than sitting on a meditation cushion, you know, in a yoga studio, right? Um, there's there's an innate connection to the rhythm of nature. So to be out hearing the wind gently going through the trees,
Mhm.
um, breathing cleaner air, right? That's a fact. When you're in the forest, you're actually, I jokingly say, as a person in long-term recovery myself from a substance use disorder, I used to go straight to the Colombians for my cocaine, right? I go straight to the trees for my oxygen, right? That's who produces it for us. So why not get closer? Why not be closer to the source? And then that leads to bigger questions and bigger awareness and bigger experiences, quite frankly. Being an old punk rocker, I tell people never did I imagine I would lead webinar or workshops on, tree hugging 101. It's not just for hippies, right?
Right, right.
Literally hugging a tree and taking the time to feel the presence of that being, that entity, that living, breathing organism uh, can be very profound for most people. And again, you have to work up to it for some. For some people, they just jump right into it and it clicks. But for spirituality, for me and many many people I've encountered, there's some great quotes out there about the audacity of man to build cathedrals, to tear down the forest to build a cathedral, right? To get closer to God. Yeah, yeah. So there's so many there's so much wisdom in the forest.
Okay, so let's imagine you take a young person struggling with a substance use disorder in your program, Adventure Recovery, and you get them out into the woods, or you get them on water, or you get them climbing rock. What do you do as an educator, as a facilitator, that helps them create meaning out of those moments that lasts and creates change?
Very little.
Very interesting.
Very little. Very little. Um, I I've been doing this for a long time. I've learned a lot of really powerful and complicated processing tools. My favorite one is let the mountain speak for itself. When we gift a person the opportunity to have a well curated and guided experience in nature, and then ask them, so what do you think? They have lots to say. They have again, this innate ability to take the problem solving, take the risk management, take um, the awe and the wonder of what they just experienced, and then translate it into their own life. It's very easy.
Really? Can
That
you give me an example?
I
Can you
don't
make
have
it
to.
just more prosaic for my idiot brain?
Okay. So if you're climbing a rock, we call it's a problem to be solved, right? You're problem solving your way up the route. And again, this is natural rock in a climbing gym. They have all your holds are,
Right.
marked out for you. And I always encourage clients in climbing gyms, yeah, just make your own way. Don't, make it as hard or as easy as you want.
Right.
And at some point, there's a crux. There's always a crux in the climb. And at that crux, the person has to go through a bunch of different processes to make the move. So they have to trust their belayer. They have to trust the rock itself, that it's going to hold. They have to trust their physical ability to make what feels like a stretch, right? And then they have to execute, and they have to go for it. Most climbers do not succeed in their first attempts at any problem, especially a new problem. Failure is expected. So you go at it again, and you change something in the equation to solve the problem. And then you keep going at it until you solve the crux and complete your climb. So if that's climbing, and that's just one specific skill set, I don't think I have to interpret for you, certainly. How does that apply to your life, Diana?
Well, the fact that I get to a crux, that I have the potential to fail, and that I have to go to that same crux again to move forward. You can't quite go around the crux. And that is true for a sense of emotional development too. We as clinicians or as facilitators or as guides are really helping people get to the point, to that place they don't want to go, and help them go over it, that hurdle.
That's right. And the coolest thing about what we do is there's this already kind of sexy attraction, right? Oh, I'm going rock climbing, you know? Oh, I'm going whitewater rafting, and if they're even hesitant there, we always say to anyone who is hesitant, that's either sent to us or recommended they seek us out. And we say, oh, by the way, I'm going to do fun shit. You want to come along? Right? It's your choice. It's your life. It's your journey. It's your challenge. And again, what's amazing about the translation is the individual always finds the teaching. They always do. And it might not be in the session. It might be weeks, months, sometimes years later. I have a young man I've been working with for 4 years, and he still blows my mind when he calls me, still after the fact. He still hasn't figured out call me before he does something stupid. But he'll call me and say, dude, it's just like getting up on the surfboard. I keep trying and getting my ass kicked. And I finally think I'm hearing you when you say, trust the board. I finally think I'm getting it in my life. Like, I got to trust this process that my parents and the school and my therapist and all these other adult voices in his head have been telling him for his whole life, right?
Right.
So that's a concrete example. And it takes time, right? And again, that's why I've really emphasized we are always present for that moment as best we can be, for when they go, aha. So it's not just about getting up on a surfboard. It's not just about getting up the rocks. It's not just about going down the river. It's about applying these same exact skills to my life as a whole.
So grit and resilience and getting wet and still
comfortable, embracing
back up again. Yes.
Yes, embracing the suck is one of the favorite lines that our clients spit back at us. Yeah.
Breezing the suck.
Embracing the suck.
Oh, I thought you said breezing. I was like, breezing. Wow, that's profound, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
So embracing the suck. Yes. That's resiliency, right? If facing life in its reality is the first step for resiliency, then nature provides that without words.
Yes, it is never more real than when you're out there.
Yeah. Socks are wet. It's cold.
Yeah.
Nature doesn't care. Nature's not going to modify for you.
Yeah, I forgot an important piece of gear. Something broke. Something was lost. Right. Okay, what are we gonna do about it? Right.
For me, the biggest experience and lesson I had learned when I was young, I did an outward bound course in my mid-teens, and we were doing rock climbing, and you refreshed my memory about that moment. And I got to that crux, that point where I didn't want to go anymore. It was too hard. It was too scary. And I heard some of they were boys below. I was 16 saying, she'll never do it. And I got mad. And I overcame that particular hurdle. And I made it up. And they were like, oh, I can't believe she did that. But it was anger that fueled me. And I learned a really valuable lesson about being able to channel anger. That was valuable, that it can be a motivator.
Absolutely. And that's the key word there being channeling, right?
Right.
So many people struggle with, dysregulation because they haven't yet to find the right channel.
Right.
It's not that dysregulation is wrong.
Right.
It's the human condition to be dysregulated.
Right.
What's the channels that we're using to navigate it? And that's again where you combine nature with an outdoor skill development, path. And when you put the two together, there's just the best thing is we are never in the position of authority when we're out there. We're in the position of having knowledge and wisdom, but we are not
partnership, maybe partnership with them, partnership with nature,
partnership all the way, right? But nature is ultimately the authority. Whether we go or turn around is always dictated by nature.
Wow.
Right. So even if it's something within the group or the individual, right? So let's say it's an altitude issue. The person is feeling, the effects of altitude. That individual's nature is dictating we have to go down. There's no argument there.
Right.
Right. There's no fight. There's no outside authority telling us what to do. It's very clear. It's very easy to negotiate. So when managing some of those, real stubborn aspects of our condition, okay, you're going to fight this, right? Good luck. I'm going to start down because our number one rule is go big and go home.
Right.
And go home, right? We all go home.
Home being important. Right.
Exactly. Absolutely. Right. We're all taking this home.
So do you see many people who have no experience with nature when they first meet up with you, and then 5 years later are outdoor educators, nature buffs, whatever you see? Do you see people change direction of their life based on sort of an outdoor program?
Absolutely. In most cases, it's not even that we've introduced it for the first time, it's we've reintroduced it. Back to, most kids used to play outside, right? That used to be the thing that kids did, right? Parents, we had a much better system for supporting parents back then. It was called the outside, right? Just go, right? And trust that they'll figure it out and make it home. And so for anyone from that generation, it's easier. It's easier for them, right, to find that reconnection, right, as kids, that awe and that fun, that freedom. For folks who have been, a little bit younger nowadays, right, who have not necessarily had that opportunity, it can take a little longer because it can be a lot more intimidating. And again, there's a lot of different layers of that, right? So many young people are afraid to fail in any way. So many young people are they're convinced that the world is on fire, literally, right? So nature is angry, right? There's so many different stories now in their upbringing that make it even more uncomfortable for them to even start the process. So those are the ones that take a little more time. But
for what you said in their first moment was that you have to make it safe.
Yes.
So depending on where they start, that's the initial process, right? If they are indoor kids who lived in Manhattan, who never, their only outdoors were contained environments,
Yes.
you
It's-
must have a bigger job. Yeah.
And we take every client, their first experience with us is a hike or a walk in the woods. It's not even a hike, right? It's a walk in the woods where there are multiple options for where to go and what route to take. And that's very important to us, because what we do right off the bat is we either go to a kiosk that has a map, or we carry a map with us, or nowadays we use the technology in our phones. Where do you want to go and what route do you want to take? And they look at you like, what are you talking about? Like, where do you want to go? What looks interesting to you on the map? Oh, and by the way, if you don't know how to read a map, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Right.
And what route do you think you'd like to take? Oh, okay. Well, let's go yellow trail to the white trail to the summit. All right, great. Get to that first intersection where the yellow trail and the white trail meet. Which way are we going to go? I don't know. You tell me. You're the guide. No, this is your experience. You made the decision of the route you want to take using the information that's in front of you. Which way do you think we should go? And by the way, if we go the quote unquote wrong way, I've got plenty of gear in my pack and enough skill that I can last, months out here. So you might want to choose wisely, right? So again, right off the bat, they feel a sense of agency. They test us right off the bat with that first decision, right? Is it really up to me? Yeah, it's really up to you. And then by the time we reach that peak or that summit or that view or the lake or whatever that point of interest that they picked out, we've already built the most important part of rapport, which is what you've said and what you've done have matched.
Yeah. So right? You become safe.
You're congruent.
Right.
I'm now willing to engage in a little bit more depth of a conversation. And that's
sense.
where we introduce, so, why are you here?
Right.
Right. So why did you choose to come on this walk in the woods with me today? And by the way, where are you going?
It's your journey. It is your journey, right?
And how do we best support you?
Yeah.
Here's our menu, right? What would you like to try?
I like that. Yeah.
And then from there, we set a plan. And again, the client drives the bus.
Client drives the bus.
Yeah.
So we have spent, as they used to say on Car Talk, another half an hour talking. Useless half an hour, I think they used to say. But tell us, what would you like to close our collegial conversation with? What would you like our listeners to know and remember?
I would hope every single person gets up from this podcast or this webinar and gets outside.
I like it. I'm going
to breathe some fresh air, look at some natural setting, even if you're in the city. Just find something green, something that's nature doing its thing, and just look at how perfect it really is, and know that we're no different.
That we're part of nature.
We are of nature. And how can we then guide our families, our friends, our clients to similar experiences? And if you don't know how to do that, give us a call.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim Walsh. I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Diana, for asking me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.